Yes, the big conversation in Kenya, victims compensation, and that's why we're having this discussion. Na level tumefika sana ku talk straight to power, talk straight to law, to understand the law, to understand the positive side of what is happening, and also possible challenges of where we are, where the government has called for compensation. Na tulianza pale tukisema victim compensation refers to the right of victims of crime, underline the word crime, to receive financial payment or property restitution for losses suffered as a result of an offense as outlined in the Victims Protection Act 2014 in Kenya. I think hapo kwa properties ndio Kasmoka alisikia akasema affordable housing ama kalandi yake tu kadogo, asemage hii ni ya maandamano. So we get into this tukijua approximately over 130 people were killed and also over 600 were injured, victims of 2024-2025. Takuwa nacheza clip ya Professor Makau. And kwa set sahi tuko na a very senior lawyer anaitwa Evans Ogada. Atajiintroduce mwenyewe. He's a friend to the hood, kijana wa mtaa, and most victims umeona ni vijana wa mtaa. And that's why we picked on Evans to come and speak to us, speak to law and tell us what is going on in the eye of the victims. Karibu sana Evans.
Fiti sana Maji. Good to be back. Kwa set tena.
Ndio hiyo.
Nimefurahia kurudi tena na it's good to meet vijana wa mtaani. At least kusikia account yao ya what happened. Very sad, but anyway, we are here to say what the law says.
Kabla tuende sana, I think for you, let's get into context.
Yes.
Yeah, this was...
So we have several, as outlined in the Gazette notice, but also in the proclamation, we are doing several things. As I said, number one, we are doing compensation for fatalities, for serious injuries, and also paying for hospital bills. So that is one aspect of this. The second aspect of this is making recommendations to the relevant state bodies, such as the legislature, to either pass new laws or amend existing laws to clarify, for example, the right to protest, to assemble, and to picket in Article 37. And then we should also be making recommendations, by the way, on how our law enforcement culture can be transformed so that what we've seen over the last 2 years does not recur. And then finally, if evidence comes to us of criminal culpability, we shall make referrals for prosecutions.
Yeah, so we start from our learned friend, Professor Makau, who was, since yendo chairman, it seems concept yao ina run into 3 approaches. Fatalities, sijua na reasonaje level ya fatality. Injuries, sijua na livaje to that level, and probably loss of life. They have not mentioned property. And also, when we move to legislation, they'll make recommendations so that what is not captured on the act possibly can be captured well, and also processes and how to pay.
Well, I disagree fundamentally na hiyo committee ya kina Makau Mutua, because whatever ana try to propose atadu, there's nothing new in under the sky. Hizi vitu zote zimeshafanywa before. And then shida yangu sana sana na this committee.
So there's been compensation before?
Conversations about kaizi reforms, makarao na nini, those have been made before. But let us go to what wanaita the core mandate, compensation.
Yes.
Who is supposed to be dealing with this issue of compensation?
Okay.
I will invite the viewers to look at their constitution, na niko na yangu hapa.
Ndio hiyo sasa.
Article 59(1)(e).
Ndio maana uko hapa.
What does Article 59(1)(e) tell us? Article 59(1)(e) imepatia the Kenya National Human Rights Commission the mandate to receive and investigate complaints about alleged abuses of human rights and take steps to secure appropriate redress where human rights have been violated. So story ya Kinajoka hapa, who is supposed to be listening to Kinajoka na kutathmini what harm happened and whether they are eligible for redress, compensation redress. That is the mandate of the Kenya National Human Rights Commission.
So are you saying Makau's panel is taking over Kenya Human Rights?
Exactly. Na hatuna aibu yoyote kumwambia hivyo, straight to his face.
But okay, the question would be, can they take over?
They cannot.
Hakuna gap.
They cannot, because that same constitution, tuende pale, sisi tunasoma katiba tukiambia watu tuangalie article 249. What does article 249 say? Because article 249 ndio ina protect the commissions and independent offices. Ukiangalia article 249, the Kenya National Human Rights imepewa several mandates as a constitutional commission. Na iko protected hapo in terms of their independence. Ukiangalia article 249(2) inasema these commissions, including Kenya National Human Rights, is only subject to the constitution and the law and independent and cannot be directed by anyone to any control or to any authority. So for example, kama juzi ati Kenya National Human Rights imeekwa as a member of the Macau Committee. Makosa.
Jolly claim, they said body iko na members kwa hiyo panel yao. So it might mean they are already represented in the panel. So they have...
Makosa. The Human Rights Commission inafaa kuwa ina receive complaints, ni wao wana receive, au ndo investigate. So hakuna vile Makao atakuja yeye tena claim ana investigate, ana receive complaints, then atadeal na story ya compensation. Hiyo mandate imepewa Kenya National Human Rights under the constitution.
So are you saying the panel
is illegal?
Okay, the panel is illegal.
And unconstitutional.
And unconstitutional.
Yes.
But can the panel receive a report from Kenya Human Rights and act upon it?
No. Kenya Human Rights only gives reports to Parliament. Ama kama wameenda to the UN Human Rights Commission, they can table their report kule, because under Article 59, they are the body, the contact body under international law on our status in terms of human rights. So they give it to the Human Rights Committee of the UN internationally. Now domestically, they report to Parliament. They can also give the report to the President as a recommendation in terms of this needs to be done.
So could that be why they are part of the team? They're part of the panel?
No, hii kitu ni mbovu yote, all through.
So wacha niulize tena. Sisi reports zetu za victims si utoa kwa Kenya Human Rights.
Yes.
So I want to assume wako na hizi reports.
Yes.
Then if wako na hiyo mandate,
yes,
even umesema as per the constitution,
yes,
then why haven't they asked for compensation? Why haven't they taken the lead to run the compensation or to insist on it, and they have the entire report? Is there something stopping them from, what stopped them from saying, now we've reviewed 2024, 2025, or even up to 2017, we want these people compensated? Do they have that report already, or and even calculated the compensation if it is financial?
Shidani, they have not had a targeted conversation
with who? And
with the victims. With the victims, what they have in general reports, kama these were the victims, these are the numbers. But in terms of specifics, so for example, kesi ya Joka hapa, who may still have some bullet in his body, that's not an easy conversation, because in terms of how to deal with that, that's an evidence-based conversation. They have not met victims like this.
Okay.
Now they have not met doctors, ndio wafanye what we call a needs assessment.
So when Kenya Human Rights fails to act on their mandate appropriately, who steps in, who oversights?
Tuangalie story ya failure. Failure, number one, for those of you who have been looking at the budget cycle, Kenya National Human Rights deliberately imekuwa ikistab you of money. So like the latest budget wameslash your father. Last year December, before their past chair, the late Rosalyn Odede Akufe, she had written a letter raising concerns about the slashing of their budget. Juzi budget ya juzi, in addition to what had been slashed, he may slash your father. What does that mean? Kenya National Human Rights cannot hire officers. It cannot even fuel their own vehicles. These guys have been crippled. Nona. So honestly, I always expect Kenya National, which is supposed to be independent, na ifanye kazi yao, to do anything if they don't have resources. You only one. Two, there's a failure on the part of Parliament, and especially kuna the JLAC committee in Parliament. Amwezi yona Kenya National ikikatwa do hivi and you remain quiet. You know what their mandate is. You need to prod them. Pesa ndio hii, tunawapigania, we are giving you more allocation. We need you to address story ya compensation. So the conversation in terms of failure to do your mandate should be between Kenya National and Parliament.
So is it correct to say Kenya human rights have failed? The parliament has failed?
Yes.
And it is in that gap that by the powers bestowed in me as the president, that he uses to declare a panel so that they can act
Twende hapo, umeguza
proactively and fast.
Umeguza a very good term.
Yeah.
Na hii tumekuwa tukiuliza maswali.
Yeah.
When we talk of the authority of the president, hiyo story ya powers, hizo ni vitu Moi ndiye alikuwa anaongea. When you're talking of the Constitution 2010, you're talking about the authority. Uangalie the Constitution, Article 132.
Ndio hiyo.
Because hapo ndio president anatoa mandate. What did the president, and Macau has spoken about it, the president alitumia document inaitwa proclamation, yeah, to create this Macau committee. Proclamation under the Constitution, Article 132, zinaingia naje? Hakuna. Proclamation ni vitu making wa England and those old monarchs walikuwa natumia to create law and to create certain institutions. In Kenya, you cannot create anything using a proclamation. So that document in and of itself, unconstitutional, illegal. Then tuangalie what he's purporting to do. You are supposed to, he's creating this as an office or as an institution or a commission of inquiry. What did the court say in terms of the Shakahola inquiry? The president cannot move in this manner. He cannot create a commission of inquiry, especially kama tuna the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. So again, illegal, unconstitutional. Tuangalie what he's purporting to do na hiyo so-called proclamation. Paragraph 4. Amekisema, Attorney General will be the secretary for that committee. The Attorney General mandate yake iko under Article 156.
Why?
Swali ni, can the president create a role for the AG which is not in Article 156? Makosa. The AG is a constitutional office.
Professor Macau is a legal mind practicing in New York. Faith Odhiambo, president, you are president.
Mtu wangu, rafiki yangu.
Boss wako.
Yes.
President of LSK.
Yes.
One of the most proactive legal minds in the struggle for good governance by the Gen Z.
Yes.
Opposed to what you're saying,
Yes.
they've accepted the job. So on what spine have they accepted? Because I want to believe on a legal spine they've accepted the job. And they've taken a mandate to lead compensation of victims. Are you saying hawako rada?
Kuna watu ni marafiki zangu and I've had these conversations with them. So I'll not say what we said in private, but let's look at what is in public.
Okay.
Irongo Hilton Amnesty release statement ikisema he is going in there as a person. Look at the LSK statement. LSK statement pia imesema Faith Odhiambo has gone in there as a person. Currently as we speak, tuna petition ngapi in court? Tuna petition 2 zile najua. Kuna petition juzi imepata orders in Kerugoya by Levi Munyeri na kuna ingine ya Nairobi asking the same questions. And everything I'm telling you is subject of those petitions. Look at column ya jana ya Gitobu Imanyara kwa standard, asking the same questions. So these are my friends, yes. I have nothing personal against them. But ikifika story ya sheria, they have their personal reasons why they have taken up the positions. But in terms of the law, hata kama ni madhango utamwambia, hey boss, you are wrong.
Personal reason inaweza kuwa nini? Ama wamefikiria wacha tuingie huko tu fight na ndani tuokole yao.
Perhaps you know mentality, but you see, when you go ato kiklimu na fight na ndani, fight on the basis of something that can stand in law. Because I'm so keen to see what the High Court will say in this. And there is no other way other than this. And
so with all those advisors President anayo, unataka kusema yuko wrong, and in the same question unaweza niambia, therefore what is the future of the panel, the victims compensation panel by law, on the hope of compensation of the victims when umewasikia hapa? Is there anything to cling on?
A good number of us, and includes very senior lawyers, kuna wengine who are our friends, they're not speaking openly, but we are united in saying that this thing is illegal and unconstitutional. Because hakuna haja, they finish whatever they are doing, then wakimake recommendations, mtu tena kimbie kwa koti, aseme the whole process is tainted in illegality, ikwe quashed. Because we are wasting resources. So for example, look at what Professor Makau was saying, to make recommendations on what the police should be doing, blah, blah, blah. Juzi hapa si ndio tulikuwa na komiti ya Maraga.
Hiyo komiti ishakuwa sana by the way.
Hiyo komiti ya Maraga
recommendations za Makarao, we have had enough of it.
Tuangalie the Philip Ransley committee. And I will want the viewers to get the Philip Ransley committee. Hakuna ripoti as exhaustive on police reforms and what we need to do kama the Philip Ransley committee. Maraga juzi amekuja. The Maraga committee recommendations, hiyo ni sosa on top of what Ransley had said. So what else is Makau coming to tell us what has not been said before? And we will look the professor in the eye and tell him no.
Evans.
Yes.
Unataka kusema there is no where the panel is going with this thing legally.
That committee is illegal and unconstitutional. Kama tunataka kudeal na story ya kina these victims here, including these brothers who have very sad stories, tuifanye the right way. Give that capacity to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. Iyo commission, once it has a chair, i-deal na hii story. It is the chair of that committee and that commission that will decide history ya victims tuna deal nao aje. Tuite hao watu kwa session, yeah? Tukae nao, tuangalie each claim on its own, tujue, and on advice of the experts, doctors, actuarial scientists, na nani, how are we going to deal with somebody who has an issue with a bullet in the head? These people who died,
Rex.
Kina Rex na nani? Na Rex tushaambiwa story ati we don't know the bullet that killed Rex. Tushaambiwa hizo story.
Tulimatch masikio na nini, na pimple lingine hapa na
story ya Ojwang. Tuliambiwa Ojwang aligonga kichwa kwa ukuta. Na umse alituambia hiyo story bado iko kwa ofisi. Who makes the recommendations about those individual cases? It's the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. The Macau Committee haina support staff. It doesn't have the skill. It cannot hire. Ukiangalia the act, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission Act, that commission can even bring in consultants to help them with their mandate. The Macau Committee is not supported by any law.
The next discussion, to assume ni kama wanaweza. To assume. I'm sorry to kusema hivyo kwa akili. To assume ni kama wanaweza. Juu nali pande ya victims. I think the story they don't want to hear hakuna compensation, vitu ni illegal, ni Kenya Human Rights imedoze paka leo. Kwanza nyinyi ndio mnawacha president afanye vitu kama hizi, that gap you're creating. So what is compensation? Umesikia kuna mtu ana 3 bullets, kuna mtu ana 2, kuna mtu ana 7, kuna mtu ame lose life. There are the other people, kuna Baba Claw. Baba Claw is a famous laptop shop dealer who lost almost everything. And Claw wrote a letter. A young daughter wrote a letter pitying the dad and the mom for what they're going through. Maybe they won't eat, their lives won't be the same. The whole shop was gone. That is also a loss that sisikii kama kina Makau wanaongelea. Kuna watu biashara wale lose pale. Let's say the panel can act onto something. How then can the victims calculate if financial, that is, what is compensation and how can they calculate?
So again, utanisamehea when I avoid that committee because hatuitambui.
Iko sawa.
Tuangalie the Victims Protection Act because tulianza ukitusomea the Victims Protection Act. That Victims Protection Act creates mechanisms to deal with the criminal elements za compensation. So if I were the head of state, if I were in government, story is simple. We can identify the police officers wale walishuta wase. Kuna kesi kadhaa aipoa. Take these guys to court, arraign them, let us start the conversation about victim compensation while these guys have been arraigned in court. Because the court under the Victims Protection Act ina capacity ya ku-order even the non-police officers, the goons that walikuwa nadunga watu visu na kuibiana, we can get those boys, take them to court, then deal with compensation aspects because under the Victims Protection Act, kuna board. Masikia sasa? Kuna board that should have a chair and board members. How ndio once the court has dealt with the criminal prosecution process, that board should be dealing with compensation. Wewe vitu zako zilichomwa. Wewe ulidungwa kisu, ulifanywa ABCD in that criminal enterprise. We are going to deal with your compensation matter in this way. So that board can deal with the criminal process. Kenya National Human Rights deals with another aspect of justice, now which Makau is closing his eyes to. Inaitwa transitional justice, and that is broader. So that we don't have a repeat of this again. Kenya National Human Rights Assembly supervise what the Victims Board is doing, what IPOA is doing, and they report to it. And make broader recommendations, including any other thing that is missing from Ransley or Muragu on how to deal with the police. So we can combine what national human rights are doing, now what the Victims Board is doing, and what the courts will do. So si ati hatuna sheria iko.
So hii panel
mnaitaga nini mtaani vipindire? Let's call it for what it is. Tuache kujidanganya bana.
So panel ni kipindire.
This panel should not exist. Hii ni vipindi.
Yani president waelezeka naweza kwa kipindi.
Hapana, tulikataa.
So now that she's gone there as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Maybe in foresight, what happens to LSK? Who's in charge or who takes charge? Or is there a conflict of interest?
She's still the president, mpaka term yake ishe. She still remains my friend. And I know for a fact kuna some members who have written to her. Kuna barua nimeshaona. Kuna barua ya at least 2 members who have asked the LSK Council to explain in what capacity did the president join this thing. So what LSK members can do, members can ask for an SGM, and I know kuna SGM imeitwa very soon. This can be an agenda, and the president can face questions from members. Because what I know is a good number of members wamekataa story.
Okay.
It is against the law, it is against the constitution. So she might face questions in the SGM.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope mambo iko clear kidogo, so now you understand by law what the panel can do, what the panel cannot do. Kitu na kam clear ni kuwa Kenya Human Rights jo mnalalia job. You're creating a gap that people can operate and even claim for failure of you not completing your work on time, and there is need for compensation. They have had to create a panel to expedite what the parliament and you ought to have done sometimes back. So even though nasikia hii discussion legally, there is a gap that is being used or that is being occupied for the sake of the victims. But how should the victims calculate, assuming everything was okay? So tutoe Faith kwa macho yetu, tutoe Professor kwa macho yetu, tutoe William Ruto kwa macho yetu, and any other actor in that space. Let's focus on the victims. Umesikia story ya Brian, alikuwa na bullet 5, 2 kwa kichwa, 3 kwa kichwa, 2 kwa mgongo, somewhere around the spine. Joka smoker, 2 karibu na the heart, 1 kwa mkono. There are more hujasikiza. Kuna jamaa na 7 wako tu hapa. Kuna jamaa na 2 bado wako hapa. Now, for calculation's sake, I want to see how faced by the panel, yeah, wajisikizie. Inafaa wajibu waje. So, is 1 bullet equal to 7 or compensation zao zitakuwa different? Then maybe unaweza angalia from, is a bullet in the head and a bullet in the hand, is the compensation different? 7 days at a hospital facility versus 1 month versus 1 day. Is it different? Then there's loss of life. Then there's loss of property. Ebu provide guidance kisheria. Juu akifesiwa na panel wako empowered. So any victim watching this, in case you're faced up with a question, in a very interesting part. So umesikia tu jamaa mmoja sha calculate, angepewa tu duka ya simu hapo na pige shughuli zake yako sawa. Unaona? So many people can respond that way. But kindly empower them. Give information.
Ndio kwa maana nasema this thing needs to be done properly, because hizo hesabu si hesabu mimi kama wakili o Maji as a media guy can do. Hizi ni technical maths that must involve doctors, na not any other doctor. Kuna specialist doctors, kila mtu na kazi yake. Kuna pia actuarial scientists. So for example, the brother ule aliongea about loss of earning capacity. His strength,
he can't go the mile anymore.
That's a different maths that a lawyer cannot make. Hiyo lazima ikuje a daktari atuambie this is the loss, na actuarial scientist apige hesabu yake. Actuarial ni mtu wa hesabu ya aspects of life. Yeye ndio atacombine na daktari atupatie report. That is the report that a lawyer uses kupiga hesabu. Mtu amelose an eye or capacity yake ya lung imekuwa impaired, muungwana huyo alidungwa kisu. Obviously lung capacity ita shrink. So lazima tuangalie hiyo lung capacity kushrink imemwaffectaje in terms of life expectation. Reduce life expectation yake to what degree? So these are not easy maths kupigwa. Mtu, for example, kuna mtu obviously analive na trauma, na hiyo fear which affects his life, bring vitu like diabetes, pressure na nini. Those are calculations that have to be looked at. And that is why unaona kushow this is a very delicate conversation that has to have doctors, actuarial scientists, trauma psychologists. Sio kitu ya dakika moja na sio kitu ya that committee peke yake. Hesabu hapa ni ngumu. Kenya National Human Rights has to bring all these people on board. Victims wakuje waasesiwe. Remember 59(1)(e). Investigate, assessment. Hii assessment ikishafanywa, report itatoka. That is the report that itatupatia a clear guidance on who gets what and how much. Because unaweza kuwa na bullet 7, but hizo bullet 7 zimeenda area that is not delicate. Zitatolewa and you survive. You'll probably just have scars and you survive. But kuna mtu ana that 1 bullet na imeenda close to the heart or may damage a very serious nerve. that will impact his life forever. That compensation matrix haitakuwa the same. Itakuwa different.
Yeah, true. So hakuna benchmark, has this happened anywhere in the world, any part that a benchmark inaweza tumika?
Tuna comparative assessments zishafanywa tukiangalia TGRC, South Africa. TGRC yetu hapa ilitu let down, but that is what a TGRC, because Kenya National should be dealing with transitional justice, which is broader. So when I borrow from South Africa, they should borrow from South America. Those are the examples we need to look at. But at the end of the day, lazima tujue, this is a conversation that must involve doctors, must involve actuarial scientists, trauma psychologists, for us to generate something that will help these victims. Sio maswali ya makao na watu wake.
Okay. Mi bado niko kwa victim. So look in the eye of the victims.
Yes.
And assume only one is listening to you at any given time.
Yes.
Nako interested kukuwa compensated. Kindly talk to him or her.
Your compensation, however long it takes, it will happen at some point. I am glad that the conversation around compensation is happening. Tungoje what the court will say, and I'm very sure tutaambiwa hiyo kitu. The whole process, the whole conversation, lazima ifanyike under Kenya National Human Rights. Once Kenya National Human Rights imeambiwa that's your mandate, we need to go to Parliament. Parliament has to provide resources for Kenya National. There's a case that is in court. Tunangoja judgment on financing, Finance 24. That should also have an impact in terms of independence ya financing ya Kenya National Judiciary na wengine. Once that is out, these bodies should have their fair respect in terms of their budgets. So keep your eyes focused. This is something that will not be let go. I'm very sure for LSK, at least for us, we will keep at it long after this makao.
In short, unasema waache kusikia mambo ya makao, wangoje queue kutoka kwa Kenya Human Rights.
For me as a lawyer, hapo ndo tunangoja.
And for the victim?
Hapo ndo tunangoja. Sisi tunangoja.
So wangoje
makao is going down. Hiyo committee haiendi kufanya chochote.
Maybe, is there a gap? Is there a legislative gap kwa parliament? Maybe nafanya hawezi act po ama wako sufficient enough ni venye wamedoze tu.
The problem with Kenya National, for example, si yata sheria. Kenya National ni do.
No. Sio Kenya National Human Rights.
Makao.
Parliament.
Yeah. Parliament is the political will. Parliament is political will. If they were really serious, hii siasa yetu has impaired the role of Parliament. JLAC, for example, and we have so many lawyers in JLAC, they need to take up issue of victim compensation or provide resources, now provide leadership. Hapo ndio kuna shida.
So when nimesema hapo, gap in between two pillars of compensation. Parliament clearly imedoze, venye nasikia. Kenya Human Rights mmedoze, venye nasikia. It is in that gap ndio mnawacha kitu Evans amesema kipindire inapigishwa. It is in that gap. So you can tell the only thing a strong legal mind can tell the victims is ngojeni kiwi ya Kenya National Human Rights. So far, that is the only advice. And by the way, it's good to go on record that the panel has been halted. Compensation has been halted by the High Court.
Na hiyo order ni temporarily, na before a judge apatiane hiyo order ya kustop kitu temporarily, kuna tests ambayo inakuwa met. A prima facie case. Prima facie meaning, nimeangalia hizi documents vile umeleta, kuna vile kuna kakesi kanaweza kusikizwa. So tuangalie ya Kerugoya na kuna ya Nairobi. Those are two cases that are very important for the Macau Committee.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Najua umefungua watu macho sana. Lakini hakuna hata approximation yani Umesikia mtu anataka affordable housing tu. Na ziko mingi jona tunalipa.
Kuna relative yangu moja.
Sasa zingine uwezi wacha tu sheria useme tu yenyewe patia kila mtu nyumba hiyo story.
Sisi ni sheria. By the way, kuna relative yangu on my mother's side. Boys fulani alikuwa na do exam last, is it 2017? Boys alikuwa anafanya exam akingoja KCSE I mean. Boys alichapwa risasi through the head. Akadedi pale alikuwa. So we have personal stories. So si ati tuna oppose for the sake of it. Ours is to ensure that this thing is done correctly. Because people need to remember history yetu as a country pale tumetoka. Mtu alikuwa anaamka ameappoint Maji as Chief Justice. Nimeappoint nani as. Na hiyo, once we have a country that operates that way, hatuna constitutionalism, hatuna rule of law. For us as lawyers ni, do it. Sheria iko, the institutions iko. Do it correctly.
Okay. Thank you, Evans.
Santi.
For empowering the masses.
Thank you, sir.
On the trending topic of victims compensation in Kenya. And it's good, by the way, positive nina discussiwa from the president office hadi kwa ground. Probably this has never happened. So it's good for the country to discuss these issues as anchored on the law. So zidini kudebate, put pressure where it belongs. But so far, put pressure on Kenya National Human Rights, put pressure on the parliament, so that hizi vitu ziko sorted. There's already goodwill from the president, from what we can see, or from the government, from what we can see. But it seems that there is no goodwill from the parliament and Kenya National Human Rights Commission. If the three could act, compensation ni ria fast takavuka. Thank you.
Asante sana.
All right.
Thank you.